I don't know. That's all I could say. I could smile. Here we are talking about Crash Bandicoot. I actually never thought I'd be doing this as my job, considering this is a big deal for me. You probably heard me say that about a lot of things. I loved a lot of things, but Crash Bandicoot for me was like my thing for a while. It was my first PlayStation game. My PlayStation was my first foray into 3D gaming, and I got Crash Bandicoot 2, and I learned to grow and love it. I actually hated it at first because I just wasn't good at the jump from 2D to 3D games. I couldn't grasp it, but myself and my friends ended up just becoming obsessed with these games. I was so young. I was like 8 years old, but I fucking loved them so much. And I always get worried because nostalgia is a hell of a thing. And here we are with Crash Bandicoot remastered, remake, whatever. There's you can make arguments for both. They call it a remaster, so that's just what I'm going to call it for the sake of this video. But nostalgia is a thing. It clouds your mind, it clouds your judgment a little bit. I feed off of it sometimes, but it's a real thing, and I wasn't sure how this would come out once I played the new Crash. Now, having spent a ton of time with it, turns out I love it. I freaking love it. I'm sorry. I have no shame. I don't care. It's awesome. It's everything I wanted it to be. It's exactly what I remembered it to be, and it's great. Like, for me, for playing those first original 3 games, like, just firing this thing up now, like, it knows right off the bat, the music comes in, you press start, it goes... Like, and so you know, like, what the fuck you're about to play. And it's very much the same. Gameplay has remained pretty much intact. They've made a few little things, little tweaks here and there for convenience sake. I did talk to the developers, but really you get the gameplay as it was. For better or worse, there's some problems. And I mean, I don't know. It took some getting used to analog control for this. I found it sometimes too precise, sometimes imprecise. I had a lot of trouble with bouncing between crates and crates here and there, but otherwise, it felt really good for me. It was if it ain't totally broke, don't fix it, and that's the approach they took, and I'm glad. Because what you managed to just get is the real distilled Crash Bandicoot vibe. The game looks fucking incredible. I wish it was 60 frames per second, but it looks damn good 4K HDR running on a PS4 Pro, which I played it on, and it's really cool because Crash Bandicoot himself looks amazing. He looks great, but he also looks like they took... And they show it in the intro startup scene. You'll love it. But they actually just take Crash Bandicoot and make him look better. He doesn't look like a slightly redesigned weird Crash from the later Crash games like Twin Sanity or the Titan game or whatever the fuck. That was garbage, and they made him look stupid. But this was like, originally, this is exactly how you would imagine Crash to look in more polygons. He's animated better, he runs around, it looks great, but he feels the same. Getting those slide jumps, which are my favorite things to do, to sliding high jumps, still feels exactly the same. It's like muscle memory. A lot of stuff with this game, I was able to do perfect runs right off the bat because it's like riding a bike. At least games are for me, where you pick it up and it's instantly familiar like how it used to be. And that, to me, makes a good remake that they didn't totally butcher, because they fucked up so many remasters and remakes and stuff. Like, Silent Hill HD was such a disappointment, so I was so worried with this. But the vibe is there. The levels look incredible. The music is redone, but still very, very much the same. I'd say most of the music tracks are 80 or 90% the same as how they used to be. And they were all good and catchy. And especially in Crash 3, they all like kind of sounded like the time period they were in because of the time travel stuff. And it works. It works wonders. But it does look really good, and I think that's the biggest thing, is that it looks like how my mind remembered it, just better. You know, Crash Bandicoot 2, the colors are a little off. Like, there's a lot more darker things there in the old game. Now it's brightened up a bit, but otherwise, like, it looks great. The levels look amazing. Crash, like I keep saying, does look amazing, but there's effects, there's really good stylistic lighting. It's almost to the point of it being overdone at points, but it still manages to look fantastic. And for me, someone that does like graphics and does get excited about that stuff, like, that is, I'm gonna admit, it's a draw for me. Playing this game and looking at it is half the fun. Also, Crash still does this. That's my favorite. That's the best. Never change that. I talked about this in the Before You Buy, and I'm going to talk about it here for a sec. I'm not sure, like, for newcomers, like, what they're, like, I don't know what to tell if you've never played a Crash game before, because they are still so simple. You know, enemies are easy. The levels are pretty simple, very cut and dry, very narrow. It's very linear. So maybe people who never played these might play these and say, I don't get it. But on the flip side, maybe you won't, because there's a lot of special stuff here. The vibe and the attitude is fun and goofy and very Looney Tunes and wacky, but it's just good old-fashioned, like, memorable video game levels, like those levels that you can start to get to be able to play with your eyes closed because you just play them so much and they're so memorable. And boss battles, good old, real boss battles, real boss battles that you can die in an instant, or you could beat them in an instant if you mastered. It's good like that. So it just works if you want to see that. Maybe you're a PlayStation fan now, but you grew up on Nintendo or something like that, or maybe you just never experienced this stuff. It's a good way to get a glimpse of like the original 3 Crash games that really started it all and kicked off a lot of stuff for PlayStation. I had a lot of people asking me about the PS2 Crash game being included, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. It's kind of after they parted ways from Naughty Dog. But for some of you younger guys, maybe that's your first Crash game. I regret to inform you that it's not here. It's the first 3 games. The first game holds up the least, but it's still pretty good. The second game is my personal favorite. That's where like the attitude really comes in, and there's a lot of really cool sequences. There's a jetpack sequence. There's some really, really great levels and music. And then the third is a fan favorite for a reason, because it's fucking awesome. There's so much variety. There's motorcycle chases. There's jet skis. There's riding on tigers. There's running from dinosaurs. There's future levels. There's really, really good boss battles. And I just love this whole package. There's so much incentives to replay, just because, I mean, like, I replayed when I was a kid because I had no money and it was the only game we had. But also in the sense that, like, you know, there's time trials, there's getting all the gems and crystals, and I just love that. Like, and I played the hell out of it. I got it on Monday, and I've been playing the hell out of it to make videos for here in Game Ranks. But this weekend, I can't wait to just like sit down with a cocktail or like crack open a beer and just kick back and play more Crash, because it's that good. It's like video game comfort food for me, and that's why I'm enjoying it so much. I do recommend it. If you're a fan, if you play the old games, definitely check it out if you know what you're getting into. If you've never played these games, it's not a full price game, and you know what? I am still going to recommend it, even though, you know, you should know that there are a lot of limitations to it. It's kind of fucking awesome. I'm obviously completely biased, but I really like it, and I like what it does as a simple platformer, and I think there's some satisfaction you might get from it. But that's how I'm feeling on Crash. I want to know from you guys. I want to get a gauge on some of you guys. There's a lot of newcomers to this channel. I want to know how you're feeling. If you grew up playing these games, I want to know like what your gaming situation was. Let me know what you think about Crash, and let me know what you think about all that stuff. Let me know if you did pick up this collection like at midnight. I want to know what you're thinking with the controls, specifics, and stuff like that if you are hardcore. Let's just talk about any of this stuff. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. I'll be there. I'll be on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. But I'm Jake Baldino. Thank you guys so much for coming around and listening to me ramble. You can subscribe if you haven't already, because video games.